Gotta feed the shoot. Points. Another failure to feed the very edge of the top of the hollow point is catching on the chamber. Kind of disappointing. 2 stoppages. Stop. At least it ejects. It ejects just fine now. So it does FMJ reliably, just doesn't feed hollow points. That's just disappointing. Oi oi, it's your boy Philip again with AR9. I'm gonna explain why I have it set up this way, or well, what's set up on this. First of all, 4.5-inch barrel, because I wanted to put a suppressor under here. Now I'm not too sure about that. Maybe I'll do it for 22 one day, because those barrels are cheaper. Colt style, Colt feed, maybe not the best idea, but it locks the bolt back, which is useful. Problem is, the bolt latch likes to break on these a lot, so I had to put some coins in so that the bolt cannot travel much farther behind the bolt catch. Because if it could, that means it would have the extra space to gain momentum, and then to compress the spring more when it goes back and gain momentum going forward, smashing the bolt catch, breaking it in half, and costing me money. Other thing, short door port works fine. This port, it seems to work fine, but you do need to adjust your ejector and not just move it close to the bolt. You have to file it down to eject in the correct direction. If your casing is hitting the top of your port, you want to file the bottom half of your ejector. If your casings are hitting the bottom port, you want to file away the top portion. Let me show you. My ejector is honestly truly fucked at this point, but now it's ejecting the correct angle. You see this? It didn't need to look like this. It was more of a square shape. Now it's more of a sharp pick shape. It varies between AR9s. If you have a large port, you probably don't need to care. Except if your rifle doesn't eject at all, in which case bend that ejector in a little bit. I got a flash can here because I can't do the suppressor talk because I can't afford one right now. This laser is a Pinty. It works surprisingly well. Oh, the laser bit. What doesn't work is using it as a laser. For example, if I hip fire it, I'm going to be a lot slower recovering because the gun recoils more. There's nothing to catch the gun like the shoulder. If it goes off like this, bang, my laser's going to be way off and I'm going to have to follow that laser back to the target. It's hard to do. This way, you're already kind of on target in the first place because your eye is always above the barrel. So this, you can recover, bang, 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 bang. With this, you have to go like, oh, my laser's on target, bang. Oh, it's off target, bang. Bang, bang. So, yeah, it's slower. During the daytime, it's not very useful. During night, it might be useful to mark people out, but then the enemy can see you. Which is why we just use IR lasers. But I don't have $15,000 or even $2,000 for a cheap set of night vision goggles. So that explains the front half. Now for the rear half, got this little stock. It's not a stock. If it's called a stock, I go to jail. This is a little shockwave blade. It sucks, but it works. And it does the job perfectly well for 40 bucks. I would not recommend buying it though. There's much better braces out there, like the TAC 14, I think. Then we have the grip. It's an A2 grip, shaved down with a file and a bicycle inner tube wrapped around. It's a poor man's MOE plus. It works surprisingly well. You should try it. It really does work. And it's weird that it works because it's like, it's free. Because this bicycle inner tube popped on me, so, and this grip, like, what we're gonna do, throw it away? Another thing is, my hammer pin was falling out because the hammer pin retention spring, which is in your hammer, if you've never seen it before, it's kind of weird, but it broke off in my Anderson lower parts kit because I was a cheap ass. Don't cheap out on fire control components. If it breaks on you, you're fucked. So I got these anti-lock pins, and now it works. I have a Joe Bob Outfitters set screw trigger creep take up screw. So I could, there we go. No creep at all. My hammer spring is a bit heavy, so it's causing some issues where the firing pin will actually have too much energy in it, and it will start puncturing primers. And then once those primers are punctured, the gases from the gas from the casing will hit the firing pin spring, which will hit the retainer pin on the bolts, which will bend it. And over time, the gas will ablate or remove material from your firing pin until it either snaps in half or it just stops working. Yeah. So that's another big issue with AR9s. just forgot to tell you that. You're either going to be having to replace parts of your fire control group once in a while because they are hard on pins, on firing pins. I mean, they're hard on firing pins, they're hard on retainer pins. They will break a normal hammer pin. And that's because hammer pins have a little groove in the middle or on the sides and the middle. And the reason for that is so that the hammer retention spring can snap into that groove. That's a weak point. It's going to snap in half because 9mm is brutal. The coin mod I did in here, the coins I used as a spacer, they're starting to get dented. The bolts hitting with such authority that it's just smashing them. I've broken one iron sight because the screws on the iron sight just came off. And I have broken a red dot sight, a cheap one, of course. The lens, the glue holding the lens on, broke. Well, I mean, it just didn't hold onto the lens, and the lens shifted a tiny bit, putting my dot way up high, which means that, well, I couldn't use it, so I shot it. This laser works somehow. The feeding's not that great, it doesn't feed hollow points. Only full metal jackets, and surprisingly, it's okay with wad cutters. Semi-wad cutters. 147 grain, the lead cast stuff. Works at that. Don't really know why. Anyway, yeah, I do not really recommend building an AR9 unless you hate yourself. Because honestly, this is the worst possible way to get introduced to the AR world. Yeah, I'm using a CMMG dedicated lower. I can't use this lower for anything else. It won't even let me use it for their guard series, which is the delayed blowback, which I highly recommend you go delayed blowback instead of straight blowback. But, you know, if we're going to set one of these up, here are a few tips I have for you. First of all, don't get this. Don't do whatever this is. Don't tuck your muzzle device. You're gonna need that barrel to poke out so you can put the muzzle brake on. That's really the only way that you're gonna have MP5-like performance, is if you put a big ass muzzle brake on, and then JP captured spring, which is $200. JP bolt for that captured spring, which is another $300. Basically, if you want to go blowback, go JP. If you don't want to go blowback, then get anything else. Honestly, this is... It works good now, but it took me 3 months to get here. Constant fiddling with the ejector, saving up money for the front half of the gun, the coin mods, replacing trigger pins, replacing the firing pin, which they're $15 each. That's kind of expensive, isn't it? And I also had to replace the retention pin, which is usually $1. Yeah, I don't know what else is going to break on this thing. I think it's going to be the weight. The pin holding in the weight is about to break off. No, I mean, not about to break off. It slides out. After you fire 300 rounds, the pin starts walking out and hitting the sides of your upper receiver. Yeah, honestly not worth it. Don't do it. Don't. Okay, here's some bonus footage of me using the laser. Laser on target. I was shooting as fast as I could with the laser.